Hi, welcome to Against All Odds. This is our very first edition. We have our first guest, Peter Akwaboah here. He has quite an inspiring story, not only because he married me. This is my husband, guys, if you don't know us. But also, he has an incredible story. He used to be a student athlete before his time as an investment banker. So, Peter, welcome to Against
Thank
All
you.
Odds.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so do you want to tell everyone else a little bit about yourself growing up? You were born in England, and then you moved back to Ghana with your family around the age of 2.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much, and I applaud you for all the hard work you do. Against all odds, hopefully it will be such a success, and I'm glad to be part of it. As you said, I was born in the UK. First of all, I am Peter Andrew Akwaboah. So just so everybody is aware,
All right.
and for the ones who are watching and not aware what Kwabna means, it means you're born on Tuesday. The most popular one is probably Kofi, which is Kofi Annan, born on Friday. So Peter Andrew Akwaboah, born in the UK at the age of, I don't know, 2 or 3. My parents decided to move back to Ghana after a long stint in the UK. And so I'm sure at the age of 2 or 3, I have no choice but to go with them back to to Ghana.
Decided? Wasn't there a reason why they actually had to move back?
No, I think it was just to go back and experience the motherland. I'm sure you have a different reason, and I'm sure you've been listening to my mom. Don't worry
Yeah,
about that.
Peter. It was actually because you and your twin brother Paul were so naughty that they needed help to be able to handle the two of you.
Really? Oh no,
You were
no.
known as the
My mom has
terrible
never.
twins.
She's never shared that with me.
Of course not. Of
I
course
always
not.
ask my dad, and my dad, according to him, is because he wanted to go back and experience life at the motherland and set up his own business. But
Of
I'm sure my
course,
mom would say it's because of us. But
of
anyway,
course not.
we'll assume it's because of us. So we went back, and then and then it came back. So we went back to Ghana. The worked in Ghana. We schooled in Ghana, and did everything from university primary to St. Augustine's College, and then came back at the age of I think 15 or 16 to finish our A levels in the UK, and then the rest is history, as they say.
Okay. All right. Excellent. So in Ghana, you were in St. Augustine's College, as you said, and that is actually where your sporting career started. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Actually, my sporting career started before St. Augustine's
Oh,
at university primary,
okay.
but it wasn't. I've always been the sporty type. Sports has been, I guess, in my DNA.
Okay.
And been very adventurous in trying every type of sports. And so at university primary, I tried as much. I wasn't as good as probably when I went to St. Augustine's, and it's probably a consistent theme in my journey in general, which is the further, I guess, the older I get, I hopefully the better I felt like I was becoming both academically and my sports. So when I got to St. Augustine's, I continued the sporting career and try to do everything from basketball to athletics, or track and field as they call it in the United States. And I did everything from sprinting to field events and again basketball, and I tried everything. And yes, hopefully some of them worked well, especially basketball. And in the end, I majored in long jump and 110 hurdles and triple jump.
Right. Okay. So you move to England when you were 16. You and your brother Paul went to Campion School. You carried on with your athletics there, but you were not quite the champion as you were in St. Augustine's.
Yeah, I think look, moving back to the UK is, well, first of all, at the age of 16, going to any environment is never easy.
Absolutely.
Let alone moving back to UK, living in Essex, and going to school in Hornchurch, which is in Essex, which is predominantly, it is a Catholic school, but predominantly a white school.
Right.
and Paul and I, and probably maybe another 2 or 3 blacks in that school. It's never easy because you're joining an environment where, first of all, your accent alone, it is a little bit of a disadvantage, even though I still prescribe that my accent is better than the Cockney accents, but we'll leave that to one side. But it's still a disadvantage. And so you're trying to integrate into an environment. And bear in mind, we go back to the UK, I think in July, and we started school in September. So you can imagine trying to make friends and everything else. But one thing I would say is that sports sometimes, as hard as it is, neutralizes things. And as I had a passion for sports, I decided that I was to continue the passion for that at Campion School. Right. And I did that for basketball, and I did that for track and field.
Excellent, excellent. So you worked hard at your sports and all of this paid off. Tell us about the day when preparation met opportunity. There was a sporting event and the star couldn't be there.
Yeah,
Tell us about that day.
I think, and this is a Campion School. Look, I've always believed that I was good enough to continue to pursue and drive it to the best of who I can be. And so at Campion School, with the exception, where in addition to the education itself, I spent a lot of time training with for basketball and also for track and field. And in the end, I joined a club called the Havering Club, which is actually down the road from the school itself. And like anything else, this is where the whole networking and finding a good coach also helps. So at the time, my coach was helping as much as possible to be able to integrate. And I spent a lot of time wanting to demonstrate that I could be also within the school team itself, and I could be one of the two. But nevertheless, as you can imagine, back in Ghana, no spikes, nothing, and even the spikes are all rugged. And so coming over and having the best equipment and tools doesn't necessarily mean that you can actually condition your mind to be in the arena. And there was 2 people ahead of me who were competing in the triple jump. Right. Luckily, one of the big events, one of them could not turn up, so I was asked to step in to do the triple jump. I stepped in to do the triple jump, and I think on my 2nd or 3rd jump, I broke the school record. Wow! And so that then got me to an invitation to the English Schools Championships, and at the time I was in Birmingham, Alexandra Stadium, and I had no idea what that English Schools Championship was, because having been in the United Kingdom, I had no idea what the sequence of the next levels are, the English Schools Championships, and then in the end, from the English Schools Championships, if you're doing well, you get invited to England junior team, and then the senior team and the rest. And so that's what it happened. And then I got involved in breaking the record. Then I did what they call the Essex Championships, which is across the whole of the Essex County. Right. I won that one. Oh, wow. I remember jumping against a guy called Junior Campbell, who was where was he actually? He was somewhere in Chigwell, and he came 2nd, if I remember right. Wow. And, that's what happened.
Wow. Wow, amazing. I think it's so important that you were ready when opportunity met. And I think, our boys are quite athletic as well, the elites. And I think we always tell them, you play like somebody is watching and train like somebody is watching, because it is what it is. Somebody is always watching when it comes to sports or when it comes to business. In the organization, it's always your highest offering, your highest self that gets the recognition. So I guess it's the same thing. So you've told us about how you transitioned from competing into to Essex County and then to the English Schools Championship. What was your training schedule like on any given day?
Initially, that's probably the toughest part, because initially, because I like sports, I wasn't just doing athletics. I was in basketball, and I actually dabbled a little bit in rugby as well. And then I gave up because the schedule is very tough, because the basketball schedule is very, very different from the track and field schedule. And then you have to go to the club. So I was practically training 5 to 6 days a week, mostly in the evenings. And so at that time, to go to school was the bus. So the bus from the house to anywhere is probably about, I don't know, 40 minutes or so. And so after school, I'll go and train, and then I'll get a bus back home and so forth. So it was pretty much about 5 to 6 days a week, which is obviously never easy, because you have to go back and still finish your homework and so forth.
Right. Okay. So you then at some point started training in Tottenham with all of these elite athletes. Can you tell us how that came about? You moved on from Havering Club?
Yeah, so like anything else, once you get into the English schools, and you start being invited to the England or the Great Britain team, you start interacting with the next level of, I guess, elite athletes. And at that point, you have to start thinking, where do you want to head where do you want your career to go? Now, for me, I was very clear that this is still a hobby, but at the same time, it was a hobby that I was prepared to advance to see how far I can get to.
Right.
And through the English, the Great Britain team, I met another coach, Richard Jay-Z, although he calls himself Gazy. And he was training some of the best triple jumpers at Haringey Club. So he was training John Herbert. He was training, what's his name, Derek Brown. He was training, and a number of the good athletes. So I decided that part of what I needed to do was to try and join his team. And as hard and tough as going from Romford, which is in East London, to White Hart Lane, and most of you know White Hart Lane because you watch Tottenham Hotspurs.
Yeah.
Then that's probably about in those days, by the time you take 2 or 3 trains together and walk from White Hart Lane station to itself, it probably takes about close to 2 hours every evening.
Wow.
But that's what I thought it would take for me to advance my career, and that's what I did. And probably one of the best decisions I did made.
Wow. Was there ever a point when you were obviously a teenager, you were under 18, you were seeing this as a hobby, but was there ever a point when you were conflicted about going to university? Was there ever a point where you thought, this is what I want to do? I'm not sure I like this. I also want to, go to school. I'm not sure.
No, actually, funny enough, when I came to the UK, a lot of the friends were living in Brixton and South London. Okay. So probably the point that I was more conflicted was where I was living, which was living in East London, and I wanted to move to South London because a lot of other friends were in South London, and I thought that's the coolest place to be. But what is interesting is the push by parents, and especially my mom saying to me that you are in a good environment, you are in a good school, and you need to focus on that. And a lot of these things is also about a lot of the years of call it nagging in your ears about education is important. Years of spending time. You can imagine I don't have a big brother. Right. I have big brothers when it comes to cousins and the rest. So I watch a lot of my cousins, first of my dad, but also my cousins and friends like JB, those days like Maxwell Boachi, who is now a neurosurgeon, and I watch them continue their education, continue their talents, but at the same education. So at that point, you start thinking that, you regardless of the sports, you still want to continue your education and see how far you can get to. There was, I guess, if I was doing something like sprinting,
Right.
maybe that would change my mind. It would make me start thinking. But because I
Okay.
was doing something like triple jump, and I just looked around and just understood how much sprinters get paid versus how much triple jumpers get paid.
Always
And
about the money.
yeah, it's all about the Benjamins. No, not necessarily, but you still have to be commercial in life, because this is not about a short-term thing. This is about a long-term goal.
Right.
And so when I looked at it, I'm thinking realistically, look, I can get a hobby out of it. This is an amateur sport. I can do the best out of it, but at the same time, I need to be focused on my education, which is what I did. So there wasn't a doubt that education was going to be an important part of my life at that point.
Okay. So you ended up in Birmingham University. Can you talk us through the decision-making process? Because I think you have an interesting story there.
Birmingham, the story about how I got to Birmingham was really, I was competing in Birmingham itself, Alexandra Stadium, and doing the English Schools Championship. I think it was the English Schools Championships ordered. Yes, English Schools Championships.
Okay.
And I noticed a few people sitting, because when you do triple jump and long jump, it is one of the few sports where you're very close to the people watching, spectators, right? And I noticed a few, call them gray hair, older men watching. And I'm thinking, why are these guys there? Anyway, afterwards, I had a number of approaches, actually from Cambridge, and from Birmingham, and I think there was another school, I can't remember, there was another university.
Right.
And the one that really caught my eye was a gentleman called Mike Hayes, who was at the time the doctor teaching chemistry at Birmingham University, but at the same time the head of the athletics union at Birmingham University. And of all the conversations I had, he was the one that invited me to Birmingham University, invited me to not just come there, but actually offered to pay for me to come along, and to meet the vice chancellor and the rest, and that's what I did. Now Cambridge was also interested, but I actually didn't go the same step, and at that time, this is where maybe some of the questions come in. At that time, although I wanted to do education, I also wanted to go somewhere where sports was also in their DNA.
Right.
And back in the days, Loughborough was number one. So if you look at pretty much all the names you hear, including Sepco, Steve Buckley, they were all at Loughborough. So Loughborough was there, but I didn't know much about Cambridge or Birmingham as it relates to sports.
Right.
Now, when I got to Birmingham, I was absolutely impressed with the facilities itself and the campus feeling. Right, it's probably my first time of going to. It's my first time of going to the Midlands.
Okay.
And yeah, I was very, very impressed.
Apart from competing.
Yeah, no. So when I say the first time actually going to any of the campus-like university,
right,
competing at Alexandra Stadium, right? So I would say more not the Midlands, but the campus-like university,
right?
And I was very, very impressed with that. And Mike Hayes got me to meet everybody, including the dean of the Faculty of Civil Engineering, which actually had a good reputation as well. I met the vice chancellor, and then they said to me, "Look, this is the grades, and if you make these grades, you will be accepted." And that's what happened.
Okay. So you get into Birmingham University. At this point, what events were you doing?
When I got to Birmingham University, I was basketball. I was still playing basketball.
Okay.
And at that time I was doing any sports. I was doing 100 meters. I was doing 110 hurdles. My main sport was triple jump though, but I was doing everything: 100 meters, 110 hurdles. I was doing long jump. I was doing high jump. I was doing even shot put and everything. So anything that I can get out. I mean, the only thing I would say is that I probably should have done be a decathlete. The only thing that I was scared of was the pole vault. I just don't know how I'm going to hold that thing and go up and hope to come down. And so that was the only thing I was scared of. Everything else I'm okay with. But the pole vault was just higher. I'll do the high jump because maybe jumping up to 2 meters is fine. But the pole vault, no way.
You just didn't see yourself up there.
Yeah. You know, I have to say in Ghana, you hear this thing called Aponji breaks. You know, I get to the just before I take off, nothing happens. I just stop. I just freeze. So that was it. So I guess I could do 9 events, but not 10. So
not 10.
I stuck to a few of the events. At that time as well, not only was I doing basketball and track and field, but most people would know I was also attempted to play football, or here they call it soccer. And although my friends joke about it, I'm still a leading goal scorer. You
have it on record. You have it on record. We hear you. Yeah. We hear you. Okay. So you were doing all of these in university or college, as they call it here in the US. But at the same time was that at the same time when you were doing your British Junior Championships?
Yeah, so at not just the British Junior Championship, but by the time I got to Birmingham University, I was also competing for England. So in the end, I moved from the British, the Junior Championships, and I started doing some of the competition as well. And I did under 23s and a few others. Okay. Now, as you can imagine, other than even the Great Britain sports, the university sports is actually quite demanding. What they call, I think at the time it was called UAU, and it's quite demanding and requires a lot of training. And I was combining all of that as well as trying to play basketball and compete and do my studies itself, which was fun.
Right. So the amazing thing is that you were hardly in the classroom. You traveled at some point for months at a time. I know you came to the US, for example, for pen relays.
Yeah.
But you still managed to get a first-class degree at the end. How did you manage that? How did you combine such a grueling sporting schedule with your academics and still manage to excel in both?
A good question. So, I think like anything else, you have to find what works for you. If you know me, I don't read a lot. I tend to learn from debates and discussions. And people maybe find me quite annoying that I would debate, but the way I learn is through debates and group discussions and the rest. And I probably, for every 10 pages I read, a 5-minute group discussion will supersede that 10 pages that I read.
Okay.
And so I found my strength, which was that. I think the second strength I found was networking. And at university, I networked. I had good friends that I was authentic to. I was consistent with supporting each other. And they also supported me through my educational career. And what I mean by that is that even if I'm not there, they will take notes for me. Okay. I will come back. They will explain to me what happened in class. And remember that the power I have is being able to learn from others.
Right.
So, rather than going to read the notes, given the fact that somebody can explain that to me, it sinks in much better than reading my notes. Okay. Also, I build up good rapport with the lecturers itself as well. So I can go to them and they can help me as well. Notwithstanding that, there are times where I had to be a little bit clever, especially work assignments, and I won't call it copy, but I had to finish.
Our children are listening.
Yes, I have to be call it creative in how I got into my assignments and complete my assignments, and it's the reality of life. And but at the same time, it doesn't matter when you're in the examination room, you have to be bringing your A game to the table, right? So that's important. But you have to be creative and work out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So in summary, the two things I would say is that just finding my strength, what works for me, which was being able to learn from others and being able to have the power of networking and support and use that to balance my time out of the classroom.
Okay. So for you, was it hard work or talent? What do you say? And also for the athletes out there or for budding athletes out there, it said hard work beats talent any day. Was it talent for you, both in academics and your sports, or was it just a sheer grind?
Yeah, good question. I don't classify myself as talented. I think I classify myself as I have some strengths, but above all, I work hard for it. And I think it's just something that has been, it's funny, you don't think about it, but it's something that's been ingrained in you for a period of time, and that consistency becomes key. And this question, I haven't actually thought through this question, but if I think back in the days of watching both my parents, these things rub off you. The fact that my mom has always had an ability to do whatever she wants to do to provide for the family. The fact that she decided to get a degree at the age of, I don't know, over 50 years of age, or whatever it is. The fact that my dad will do whatever it takes to be able to support that. The fact that you have network around you who are all aspiring to try and do the best. I think these things rub off you that you need to be focused and you need to be working hard. And when you watch them, some of the most talented people that I have around me, even the two people I referred to, JB and Maxi, who I spent a lot of time with,
Right.
all the friends I had, who I thought they were smart, Sedo, David, Ambu, Yome, all these guys, were much smarter, but you still watch them and they still work much harder, right? And so all these things kind of rub off you that it doesn't matter how smart they are, they're still fundamentally working harder. And I knew that wasn't. So a lot of my time was just spent finding my strength, but at the same time working as hard as I can be to achieve the best. And I think that's all I could ask for. I don't think necessarily that, as I said, that as I was growing up, I was the best academically. But what was important is that at the right time, I was getting the right marks.
Right.
Right. So, whether it's O levels, whether it's common entrance, whether it's A levels, the three major milestones, I was getting the right marks. In between, you're going to look at my results, probably not where you want it to be, but I know I gave my best. Sure.
Right. Okay. So it sounds like it was a lot of hard work. You were on the field training. You had to balance it with your academics. Was there any time for fun?
Yes. I think one of my biggest, I guess, my strength is also probably could be my weakness, which is I probably take on too much, and I like to multitask, and so define fun. For me, fun is about what you enjoy, right? And so if I enjoy sports, that is fun for me, and I enjoy sports. If I enjoy being with my friends and learning from them, that is fun. I enjoy debating, so that is fun. And above all, as you know, back in the university days, we still will party, we still go out, and part of the PMP crew, and we'll go out, we'll party, we'll come back home, and still move on. And I reflect on even the other people that I can think about who have inspired you. Peter Akwaboah. If I remember those days, Peter Akwaboah was the first to amongst our circles to get into London School of Economics, and that was inspiring. And then you hang around with Kweku Chumdansu and Kwame Chumdansu and all the networks around you. They were all aspiring to do things, but we still go and party and we still come back. and we
Right.
still get back into the and do our studies and still do some work, right? We work in the test school, we're doing all sorts of different things as well. So, fun is about being around the people that you enjoy, and you can make it work. Now, as I said, then at some point you have to make some choices in life, because I guess at that point we're doing too much, and lack of sleep, which is probably has been one that I continue to be trying to get more sleep, but has been ingrained in my life ever since, because I've taken on too much.
Right. So true. So true. Now, unfortunately, at some point, you get injured, and so sports had to take a back seat. How was the transition for you? How did you feel at the time? Walk us through when this happened, how you felt, and how you transitioned. What did you then make up your mind to say, okay, now I don't have sports, so this is what it's going to be for me? Talk us through.
Yes. So I guess having a having a long-term mind around what you want to do, and trying your best is one thing. So for me, as I said, the triple jump was a hobby, but I still nevertheless wanted to try for the best of what I can be, and the ultimate best was trying to get to the Olympic Games, right? So that's the ultimate that for me, I wanted to do. But at the same time, in trying to chase those dreams, I got injured. Now, I think I got injured in either Oslo or in Belgium. And I think it was a high school stadium, where I got injured.
Right.
And yeah, it's definitely failure, and it's disappointing, because you work hard,
Right.
but at the same time, if I reflect back on why I got injured, I don't think I worked hard for the distance that I wanted. And this is where sometimes you think about the fact that your talent can bring you to so far, but the amount of hard work you put in is probably the icing on the cake.
Right.
And for me, I worked hard for the distance that I was jumping, to work even harder and give it the extra mile to get into the next level of the distance I wanted. Probably required a different level of investment. Part of that investment, I was never interested in doing. Now, some of them I should have,
Right.
in terms of the investment in additional training, but I have to balance that with my work as well. The investment that I was definitely not willing to do was drugs, which is any performance enhancement, because the natural body needs to recover to continue to do more. And that was not an investment I was willing to do. So I was willing to push my natural ability, but I think that I could have given more in terms of pushing my natural ability a little bit more.
Right.
And I didn't. I balanced that with work and with my studies. And unfortunately, I got injured. Very disappointing. Clearly, when you have any knee problems, you go through the operation. You have to recover. You have to go through all these 6 months of recovering, and it's very painful. But because I also have a long-term game, that my real focus was education as well. Although it was disappointing, I moved on.
Okay. So was that the first surgery? Were you hoping to go back after 6 months? Or no? Or
Most
you
people,
knew at the time that was it?
You watch most people, the adrenaline sets in. You always want to get back, right? If you something you enjoy, and even watch boxers, they are down and they still want to get up and say, I'm fine. You watch soccer, football players, they get injured and go, no, I still want to play. They had concussion, I still want to play, and because the adrenaline steps in. So yes, absolutely, I felt like I can get back after 6 months, but you have to condition and put the hard work in to be able to recover. And then after that, you pray that actually you recover to be able to get back. Unfortunately, triple jump is one of the most hardest sports in anyone's career. To be able to condition your legs to be able to jump, call it 5.5 to 6 meter hop, and to be able to move that straight and absorb all the shocks and get into a step, and then a jump. It puts a lot of strain and stresses on your whole body, the whole body. I equate triple jump almost like burpees. Your whole body is in use, and so once you have a knee injury, if you don't really put that hard work in, it's hard to come back and really get into the same level of distance that you can put in.
Great. So at this point, then you then decide, okay, civil engineering, it is for me. I'm just going to focus on my studies. Was it then just a simple mindset switch?
No, I think sports is sports. The only difference is I wasn't doing it to let's say in the England and Great Britain level, but you still will carry on, do sports at any level, which includes, if your my DNA is I enjoy sports, so I will find different things to do. So if it's not triple jump, I'll find something else to do. I still play basketball, I still play football or soccer, but not to the same level. But I will still definitely do the sports that I enjoy. So I did that, but not to the same level. And then I concentrated on my on my studies as much as I can be, and that's what I did.
Great. Peter, what would you tell your younger self if there was one thing you would say to Peter at 17, even 25?
What would I tell myself? I will, first of all, I will not change the career that I've been through.
Right.
I will, if I think about what I went through, I think charity begins at home. I think I stayed true to the people that have influenced my life, and I looked up to them, and I was lucky enough to be able to have good people who have influenced my life, including parents, aunties, uncles, and the rest. So first of all, I wouldn't change that, because regardless of how I hated it, it actually has a benefit associated with that, and I've seen those benefits. I think the second thing that I have, I would say I wouldn't change, and I'll come back to what I would tell myself. Second thing I would say I wouldn't change is the fact that I've always stayed true to who I am, and I've never changed who I am. And that was right at the early stage of my life, to say I'm always going to be who I am, and I'm not going to be swayed by different people. So, the fact that people drink and people smoke around me never influenced me to be able to do things. I still go out, I still have fun, but I've stayed true to who my values are, and I continue to do that.
Right.
I think that the things that the one thing that I potentially will change is more around condition yourself that you can have talent,
right,
but to think about what you want to achieve the next level is not just about the talent. It's about really investing time to be able to nurture that talent.
Right.
And regardless of what people around you tell you, that you have a talent, you are smart, you're this, that shouldn't influence your mind. What you have to realize is that at some point, the older you get, the talent gets neutralized. Everybody around you is also talented.
Right.
At the early ages, it comes out and it shows very, very quickly that you're talented. But the higher you go, and like anything else, once you get into the next category, you realize that it actually neutralizes the talent. The word talent doesn't exist anymore. Everybody's talented.
Right.
Everybody has a gift. And so the difference is about how you nurture and unlock that gift.
Right.
You can't just unlock it by saying true to yourself. Maybe there may be one or two people who can do that. But the rest, like myself and the rest, you have to invest time to
Right.
unlock that talent. And I think that subtle difference is all in the mind. And bringing that mind and conditioning your mind is very key.
Right.
And it's something that I try with the three boys. It's something that I try as much. But as you can imagine, I think they are at the stage where they are enjoying their talent.
Right.
And what I try to do is unlock that talent through their mind, conditioning their mind, conditioning their leadership skills. Because at some point, if you condition yourself, you can unlock that talent. And that's probably that one thing. Now, for me, if someone gave me that advice right at the beginning, I
Right.
probably would have enhanced myself a lot more. But I didn't have that, you know.
Right.
My parents and everybody was education, study.
Right. Yep. Yep. Excellent. Excellent. So you finished university. You started working. You're now in investment banking. You, thank God, have risen through the ranks, and you did that quite quickly. How would you say that your mindset or sports helped you in your career?
Yeah, so it's not just sports. So first of all, sports, I probably found the background nurturing was probably gathered through sports. But if I go back before sports, you know, it's back to the grounding and the basics of what was given to you, and the influence around you, which
Right.
then led to sports. But then when you then think about sports, what sports is giving me, probably at an early age, is the ability to step in an arena. And well, first of all, coming to the UK and being in an environment where there's only going to camping school where there was only a few black people, five, my brother and I, maybe three more, as first of all conditions you.
Right.
And it can either conditions you negatively, or it can condition you positively.
Right.
And for me, rightly or wrongly, I've always ignored things. I always just think that most people are ignorant when you make negative comments, and rather than correcting you, I find different ways to expose that ignorance in a good way, in an educative way, so
Right.
for you to actually think about what you just said. So at camping school, at track and field, when people mock your accent, and like when I went to the UK, I think they say exam, I say exams, right? And then they'll mock you. You know, I just say, okay, how do you say it? And then rather than me being offended, I just ask you, how do you say it? And you say exams. And I say, okay, I'm going to say it. Tell me whether I get it wrong or not. And I say, mark me out of 10. And so in the end, you're learning from them. And if I can learn and move on, fine. If they can learn from me, fine. If they can't, I move it to one side and I move on. But you have to focus on in life in general. So for me, the question you asked me around sports is that I would say three things if I can. But one is being able to, at the early stage, rise up to an arena and walking up and seeing that there's 50,000 people watching you, or there are World Student Games or anything, and they're watching you, and you have to rise up and rise up to your game.
Right.
At that point, you have to realize that everything that you've been taught, you have to get there. And by the way, you also have to realize that the majority of the people in the arena cannot do what you do, right? And so whether you fail or not, these guys pay to come and watch you,
Right.
and that means that you are within the smaller percentage. So you have to realize that whether you fail or not is irrelevant, because they actually realize that this guy has talent, and that's why they came to watch you. And so you should not be disappointed. And so that's the condition I have. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing it teaches me is teamwork and being able to work together, and that has been very, very good. And the last thing is never underestimate the coaching aspects of what I had, because the coaching aspect wasn't just about track and field, but it's about coaching you as who you are, mind, body, and soul.
Right.
And the talent is not just about what you bring, but these coaches are helping you around your mind, conditioning your mind. You could be the best, but on the day if you're not conditioned and you're not bringing your A game, doesn't matter. You may trip. So part of that has helped me. And so in coming into the work environment, when you think about it, fundamentally, work environment, you're competing. That's all it is. You're competing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of transferable skills you have to bring to the table to achieve that. And so it's helped me as much as possible. Yeah.
Right. Excellent. So in terms of mindset, you are a go-getter. You push through situations. I mean, I think I am, but you're definitely of a different level. And I feel like, or maybe that helped you in sports. I don't know if it was sports that got you there, or if, because of that, you were able to excel in sports. Are there times when, and we call it, the imposter syndrome, are there times when you ever feel like you're getting into a situation and you feel like, I'm not sure if I can do this. I'm not sure if I'm enough. I know for us women, it's a big thing with us. Do you ever contend with that in your mind? And how do you overcome that? Or how do you grapple with that?
All the time. So it doesn't matter what I do. I'm always thinking, am I good enough to do the job? That's always in my mind.
Right.
So, every job I've taken, whether it's through RBS, whether it's through Deutsche, I've been in a position where I've taken more than I've always thought. Am I good enough to do the job? So that's just part and parcel of that. I think the difference is how quickly you reflect and move on. That's the difference, right? And so do I doubt myself all the time? Do I move on? Yes. And the question is, how do I move on? All I do is I reflect and I look at other people and I'm thinking, if these people can do it, I can do it.
Right.
And not because I'm thinking they are not good, but I'm thinking we're all human beings and we have strengths. And I think about the foundation that I have built. Right. I reflect on the things that I have done. I reflect on the fact that they got first class, I got first class. I reflect on the fact that I did sports, probably they didn't do sports. I reflect on all these things and I package it together and I said, there's a reason why this is the case. Now, the most important thing is that actually somebody's also giving you the opportunity. And when I reflect on, someone is saying to you, you can do the job. It's not just one person. If someone says to you, you can do the job, the chances are another 30 people are saying that, because no one thing is given by only one person.
Right.
It's normally given by a reference and consultation. So there must be some sort of consistency in someone saying to you that you can do that job. And so if that is the case, I believe that I can. But I still would doubt myself. But at the same time, very soon I quickly move on beyond the fact that I can do it. And I reflect on even recently, I got a call to do this sustainability goals in Ghana. Okay. I had no idea what sustainability goals were. I mean, I knew about it, but I didn't know that there was 17 of them or whatever the numbers are. And it's to really think about how do you eradicate world hunger and the investment required to support that is different. I kind of knew sustainability and I knew what Africa wanted to do, but I didn't have a big picture around everything around that. And so I started thinking to myself, I'm going to do this panel. Can I really do it? Am I qualified to do it? In the end, I said, yeah, I'll give it a shot, because the only way you learn is give it a shot. Yeah. And I did the research, and guess what I do? I go back to my strength, networking. I call the whole world. Everybody who understands sustainability, I send them the questions, and everybody will come back with different ideas and the rest and the thoughts. I gather all that together. Okay. And then at the right time, I'll read in the evening, And then one day I'll sit down and say, okay, these are the 3 or 4 things. And I've always been told, in the end, it all boils down to what are the 3 things you're going to say, and so forth. And so I read all the questions, and all the suggestions, and I come back and try and summarize it back to what are the 3 things. But you know what? By putting myself out there, I've learned more about sustainability than what I knew a month ago or 2 months ago.
So true, so true, so true, so true, so true, so true. If you had to be in a room with 3 people, dead or alive.
If I had to be in a room,
in a room with 3 people, dead or alive, who would they be and why?
In the room, dead or alive. I think first and foremost, I would say God, number 1.
Good.
Partly because I would like to be able to understand how to be resilient and how to continue to forgive. And I think, like, in human beings, as you grow up and in times like this, the power of being resilient, it is fundamental, and the power of forgiving, and I'll probably add one more, which is giving back, is fundamental. So I think that will be first one. I think, and look, I'm assuming that my parents and the rest is a given, so I'm not going to use them because that's the old cliche and everything else. I think the second part will be my kids, partly because I think they're going through a different generation than myself or you, and that generation is basically less talking, more screens, different ways of communicating, and you have no idea what's in your mind. And in most cases, what we think is probably not as confident as where we were, because with the power of what we had was no screens, nothing. So you just have to be out there. You have to be slugging it out. You have to be brute force to survive and everything else. And it's a very different mindset. And so we have this perception that they're not necessarily as resilient as what they should be and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know whether it's right or wrong. And so being in the room with them and probably trying to be more educative around that, I think is key. And so that will be the second one. And then last but not least, I think it will be Nelson Mandela.
Good one.
I'm kind of between Nelson Mandela and Yaa Djang.
Oh,
right.
Wow.
And maybe I'll still see the fourth one, because I think Nelson Mandela, of these number of years in prison and still able to come back and forgive, and still unite, it's just unbelievable. But at the same time, the biggest thing I picked up, and I said I'll always be, is I want to be like him or Kofi Annan, simply because they stay true to themselves. They're one of the few people who never change their accent. Never. But they stay true to, they use their strength and everything else to overpower the world economy, and so forth. And so Nelson Mandela is one. Asantewaa, only from the point of view of the fact that we talk about empowerment and gender empowerment. And when you think about Africa and you think about Ghana, it's all about men.
Can I take you back a little bit? Maybe you could tell our audience, especially our non-Ghanaian audience.
Maybe you can explain who Yaa Djang is. Why don't you explain?
Okay, so Yaa Djang is the queen mother of one of the most powerful tribes, the Ashanti kingdom in Ghana. And she was the one that led the people. As some of you may know, Ghana is a British colony, and she led her people against the British people in a war. And it was men, women, everyone, but it was a woman, Yaa Djang, who decided to rally her people to go to war against the British. Okay, carry on, please.
So thanks for that. And if there's one thing that I'd like to leave, maybe for the audience, you should research about Yaa Asantewaa.
Okay.
I think that and if anyone wants to reach out and find out how do you spell Yaa Asantewaa, let me know.
We will
But I
have it in
think
the description.
Okay, perfect. I think that you will realize and find out that when we come to women empowerment, especially in Africa, regardless of what we say about the men, the empowerment actually is dominated and driven by the women. And Yaa Asantewaa has been probably the pioneer of that, but it doesn't end there, and it goes all the way through. So the informal sector of the economy and everything else is driven by women and in Africa, and we underestimate that what that provides in overall. And Yaa Asantewaa for me is one of the pioneers of that. And in the days of trying to, I guess for one of the better word, conquer the British, it took a female to actually lead that. And so, when it comes to equality and the rest, and we're still in these days trying to argue and disagree about equality, the fact that tennis players still cannot be paid equal and the rest, it kind of beats you when actually you go back in those days.
It's true.
And the people who were leading were people like Yaa Asantewaa. So in answer to your questions, those are the things that I want.
Absolutely. You went for 4, but all great answers. So would give it to you. So your final word, Peter, to our viewers, is there anything you would like them to take away? You have spoken a lot. You have given us so much. But if there is one thing that you'd want them to remember about you or about this interview or just life in general, what would it be?
For me, I just think life is too short. And the key thing is you focus on your strengths, and let your strengths far outweigh your weakness. And in life, human beings always focus on their weaknesses, and the weaknesses will not get you anywhere. We have more strengths than anything else, and you focus on that. Don't let people let you down, take you down, because they focus all on your weakness. And I'm guilty of that, and I'm learning as well. It's so easy watching the boys play sports, and then as soon as you sit in the car, the first thing you want to do is give them the negative feedback as opposed to focus on their strengths. And we just have to focus on our strengths and let it far away our weaknesses. As you know, for me, the thing that I practice in life, I don't ask for permission, I ask for forgiveness. Not in a bad way, but I kind of push the limits and then find out where the limits will lie, and then I can adjust as I move along. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I don't ask for permission, I ask for forgiveness.
Absolutely. Okay. Peter, it has been a pleasure having you. I just want to say thank you so much. You have been a great first guest, and you have talked us through so much about your life and pushing against all odds. I just want to say thank you. Thank you to our viewers who have been with us for an hour or so, just tuning in and listening to our maiden broadcast. I just want to say follow us on Facebook. You will find us Against All Odds on Facebook, YouTube, and on Instagram. Against All Odds, Inspirational Chats with Sylvia. Thank you so much for joining us.
And can I just say thank you to you for an amazing job you do, and also thank you to Paul, my brother, who does an amazing job behind the scenes. Generally, one of the gifted people that we can all learn from. And I guess thank you to the whole family, my parents and my siblings and the rest, who actually always supports me in whatever way I do. And then to our family as well. So you're doing an amazing job. Keep it up, and I'm sure Against All Odds will be fantastic. And looking forward to watching all the inspirational guests as they come onto the show.
They come in. Excellent. Perfect. Thank you, Peter. Thanks once again, and thanks to our audience for watching. Thank you, guys. See you next week.